On Black Ops 4, there's a perk that is so powerful that it had to be banned from use in all high-round leaderboards. The perk is Electric Burst, specifically in the modifier slot. The way the modifier works is that every time you reload, it charges up this electric knife. After reloading, the next time you knife, it will electrify the zombies, killing them instantly. And you can use this electric knife for 10 seconds. After that, you will need to reload to charge it up again. The reason this is so overpowered is because of one strategy on the map Alpha Omega. If you get the ballistic knife out of the box, then get all of your perks, including Electric Burst in the modifier, and then, without turning on the Pack-a-Punch, go to the back of the yellow house with the back door closed and stand on the porch. You can utilize this strategy where the zombies only climb up from one spot. This strategy is super broken because since they're only climbing from this one spot, it makes it very easy to just continuously knife them. It's insane, and it is so easy that this strategy and this entire perk had to be banned from high-round leaderboards. And I think that's complete bullshit. In this video, I'm going to break down many of the reasons why people have wanted this perk to be banned, and why none of them make any sense. And most importantly, why I'm calling for this perk and this strategy to be unbanned. The first reason that many people want the strategy to be banned is because it's too easy. I will give credit to the fact that yes, this is an easy strategy, but I don't think that any high round strategies should ever be banned for being too easy. More importantly, it's very strange to say that this strategy specifically is too easy when there are many far easier strategies that are perfectly legal, like the RCXD strategy on Black Ops Cold War, or mutant injections on Black Ops 6, or even this strategy on Dead of the Night where you literally just shoot the floor the entire game. Or what about this strategy on Blood of the Dead with the Golden Spork? Or this strategy on Tagged or Toten Hardcore? These two strategies look exactly the same. Why are these legal but the one on Alpha Omega isn't? Is it because these two don't require the Electric Burst modifier? Well, yes. So clearly it doesn't have to do with how easy the strategy is, just that they use the perk, I guess. Plus, if you think about it, how easy a strategy is entirely subjective. Personally, I think Revelations is much easier than the Electric Burst strategy on Alpha Omega. Doesn't mean that Revelations should be banned, it means that Alpha Omega should be unbanned. The next main argument that people bring up is that allowing the Electric Burst modifier for the leaderboards would completely ruin the meta of Black Ops 4. And again, I say that doesn't make any sense. Let's think about it for a second. The reason why the Electric Burst modifier is good is because of this climb up spot here, but only 2 maps have spots like this, being Alpha Omega and Tagged or Toten. If you didn't have a climb up spot, you would have to train the zombies around and knife them carefully, and it would just be much harder to execute a strategy revolving around the Electric Burst modifier when you're doing that. All of the existing strategies on every other map are much better, and the only map that would actually be affected is Alpha Omega. If you don't believe me, let's go through the maps and list them out. On Voyage of Despair, the Grand Staircase strategy would be faster and easier and a lot safer. Plus, Electric Burst wouldn't work on the Stokers anyway. On 9, there are multiple other better strategies, but again, Electric Burst wouldn't work on the Gladiators, so it would just be much harder. On Blood of the Dead, there are better strategies, including, like I said, a better strategy that literally uses the knife, just without Electric Burst. On Classified, the trap strategy is much better. On Dead of the Night, camping next to the Silver Bullets table is better. On Ancient Evil, using the Blood Wolf Bite modifier is going to be much better. And on Tagged or Toten, even though there is a climb up spot, the one window strategy is going to be much better and about 3 to 4 times faster. So the only map that would actually be improved is Alpha Omega. So obviously this could be banned on Alpha Omega specifically to create a more competitive leaderboard on that map. So let's see how competitive the leaderboard actually is. Okay, call me crazy, but am I only seeing that 2 people have beaten the world record at all in almost 5 years? Intuit Scott set this record in 2020, KXG set his in 2021, and then the map went literally untouched by anyone for almost 4 years until Mex Moore finally beat the record this year. So the record isn't more competitive at all. Nobody is playing the map, so that's not really competitive in the slightest. And while we're on the topic, let's look at the strategy that the new world record does use. Interesting. So it's the exact same strategy as with the electric burst modifier, except instead of a knife, you're using a shotgun, but you're standing in the same spot. And this one's a lot slower, because since you're using the shotgun and you need to have it pack-a-punched, crawlers are spawning, which makes it harder. To be specific, this strategy here is about 17.5 seconds per horde, whereas if you're using electric burst, it's a little under 12 seconds per horde. If you were to run electric burst, you would be about 33% faster. And let me just another argument before I move on. Some people say that the only people who should be allowed to dictate what the rules are the people who play the game, or the people who run the map for high rounds. And you can ask them. I've spoken to both Mexmore and KXG, and they both believe that the electric burst modifier should be allowed for Alpha Omega. So if even the world record holders are saying it should be allowed, why are we keeping it banned still? Now, I talked about how it would affect other maps, but what about other difficulties? Obviously, it's important to note that this strategy does work on hardcore and realistic difficulty on Alpha Omega. Some people worry that allowing the electric burst modifier would ruin high rounds on other maps on hardcore and realistic difficulty, because the electric burst does infinite damage in the modifier slot. Now, I just want you to think about that for a second. Maybe it might have some niche use cases on other maps, but could you really imagine someone loading into a game on realistic difficulty and trying to knife the zombies to death the entire game? I'd imagine it would go a lot like this. Seriously, if somebody somehow manages to get a world record on hardcore or realistic using electric burst as the modifier, they probably deserve to have the record. And again, that's leaving aside that on every other map besides Alpha Omega, it would just be much better to run the strategies that already exist. I can't imagine an electric burst modifier strategy that would be faster or safer or easier on any hardcore high round. Frankly, electric burst is a perk that Treyarch themselves put into the game, and they were well aware of its existence because this strategy on Alpha Omega was discovered before Tag Your Totem released, and plenty of YouTubers were using it. To ban it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I know what some of you are already thinking. What about Round Robin and Power Vacuum on Black Ops 3? Treyarch put those into the game too. And you're right, they did put those into the game, and those should be banned. Why are those different than electric burst? Well, to me, here's the biggest difference. Both of those gums completely upend the meta on every single map in Black Ops 3. If you were to run Power Vacuum or Round Robin, that would take over every single strategy. I have a whole separate video going over how broken they actually are. Round Robin especially allows you to completely skip entire rounds, and so you only have to play 80% of the game if you're on solo. If you have 4 players and a lot of Round Robins, you can skip the entire game and go directly to 255 without even seeing a single zombie. Electric Burst, as I've shown, wouldn't completely upend the meta of all the Black Ops 4 maps. It would only be useful on the one map, Alpha Omega. Every other map has strategies that work better, so it is very different. Now, some people say that the strategy on Alpha Omega shouldn't be allowed because it requires you to skip Pack-a-Punch to run it, which in theory is also against Treyarch's intentions. And to that I say, all of these following maps also require keeping Pack-a-Punch closed or avoiding Pack-a-Punch for as long as possible in order to get a world record. And those include Kino der Toten on Black Ops 1, Dire Eyes, Shadows of Evil, and Tag der Toten. On all of these maps, during the world record, you actively avoid Pack-a-Punch for most or all of the game for various reasons. So to say that it's a problem on Alpha Omega but not any of these maps doesn't make any sense. Now, another argument people make is that if you let people play this strategy, that it's just the same thing over and over again, and that's boring. Okay, first of all, what strategies aren't the same thing over and over again? But being real, a strategy being boring is not a reason to ban it, ever. And second of all, fun is subjective. I've played this strategy plenty, and I don't think it's boring at all. I think there are plenty of other more boring strategies out there. Yeah, you could just use the knife the whole game and not do anything else, but you shouldn't just use the knife. If you want to play fast and if you want to play effectively, you should be using your Wraithfires and your Specialist as well. You should also be going down to pick up power-ups, which would add some more risk. Now, going back to my very first point, people keep making the argument that this strategy is so easy that literally anyone can do it, therefore making it one of the easiest world records if it were allowed. Sure, anyone could do it, but it's definitely not foolproof. There are plenty of ways to make a mistake. Sometimes when you knife, you accidentally lunge and fall off. Or sometimes zombies or dogs can randomly push you off. Sometimes you forget to reload in time and get overrun. It's more common than you think to make a mistake playing this strategy. If you think this strategy is easy, let's look at the last time Mr. T Lexify played this strategy.
Really wild, including that, you know what I mean? Oh god, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done?
Do I look like someone who's
I'm dead. Oh my god, I've made such a dumb mistake.
Now, maybe for whatever reason, you don't think he's a good player. Now, obviously he isn't a competitive high round player, but he's definitely not a bad player. And if he can't do it, then I don't know how you think that people worse than him could do it. But fine, maybe you want to see a really good player play the strategy. Well, this next clip is the last time I played the strategy. Mutant injection is cool. Ah! Oh, there goes my shield. I'm gonna Dying Wish here. This is not good. One of the worst places it could have put me. Oh! Why did it have to be there? Now, what happened was I got a really bad knife lunge, I got trapped, and then I panicked, and I died. And sure, I probably could have survived that with better reaction time, and I probably could have survived that if I didn't get that lunge. But that's the whole point. Human error will be prevalent in a very long game. Humans are bound to make mistakes, especially in a game that could last over 100 hours, if not hundreds of hours. So no, this strategy is definitely not foolproof, especially when compared to some of the other easier strategies I mentioned earlier in the video. Anyway, why am I making this video? It's because I believe that banning Electric Knife was an injustice that really needs to be fixed. I don't think that Alpha Omega is a perfect map, nor do I think it's even a good map at all, but besides the point. But it seems to me that banning Electric Knife hasn't made the boards more competitive. It has just completely killed the map, and it hasn't affected any of the other leaderboards either. And I think it's really unfair to Alpha Omega that this map is just dead and nobody plays it, especially because this strategy is not all that bad. I'm going to be attempting to beat the Alpha Omega world record again on stream, and I'm going to be using the Electric Knife strategy. I hope that when I do beat the record, I will get the recognition that I would want for beating any other record. At least, like I said, the previous world record holders have given me their blessing. Do you guys think that the Electric Burst modifier should be unbanned, or do you still think that it should remain banned? Let me know down in the comments, and please be civil. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.